Assume you're building a Java program that manages your bank accounts. You have three different types of accounts, and each has its own properties. They all share some similar information like the account number and the balance in them, but they all have different attributes as well. A typical checking account, for example, may have a credit limit. A savings account may limit the number of withdrawals to, say, 6 withdrawals per month. A certificate of deposit doesn't even allow any withdrawals until after a certain expiry date. If you wanted to implement that in Java, you could basically implement everything in one single class, called bank account, and maybe use a field called account type that identifies which type each object is. But that means you'll have to include everything in that class, and hence in each object that comes from it, which means that sometimes it will make sense to have an expiry date for a savings account or a withdrawal limit for a checking account. Another option is to create a class for each account type. That way, each class would contain only the fields and methods that make sense for that class. But this also means that all this common area is repeated throughout the three classes. If we decide to also include the bank code, for example, we'll have to change that in all three classes. It might not seem too much here, but in a production-sized Java project, this simple change could be a nightmare. So, can we actually do any better? Yes. Java allows classes to extend other classes and build on top of them. This is called inheritance. Let's see how to use that here. If we start by creating a basic bank account class that contains all the common fields and methods, we can then create a class for each different type and point them to extend that basic class. Each would have its own unique fields and methods, while they all share the same basic attributes. To implement this in Java, you'll start by creating the bank account class, and then create another class and point it to extend that basic class by adding the phrase extends and then the class name, which in our case is bank account. The class that you're extending from is referred to as the parent class. The one that is extending that parent is known as the child class. Just by extending a class, everything that is included in that parent class is now part of that child class as well. Even though it doesn't appear in the code, all the fields and methods that belong to that parent class, in this case the bank account, are as if they were listed in the child class itself. This way, we can then create another class for the savings account and have its own attribute in it, and then another class for the certificate of deposit which also extends the bank account and have its own attribute in there as well. You can see from that example that using inheritance has allowed us to minimize repeating any code, while still having the flexibility and the good design of separate account classes.